have our positioning, we know what we want, but, you know what I mean? But what about this? And what about that? And what about, we can't forget those folks and our current clients. What are they going to see?
It literally like pours into everything internally and externally.
It's just the people behind the stories, behind the brand. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Out and About podcast, where we break down all things marketing in financial services and what we're seeing working and not working. So just as a reminder, this is for everyone sitting in the financial services marketing seat, whether you've been doing this for decades or just got handed that role when you stepped into your job. Yeah, this is for you. So I'm super excited for our episode today. I'm joined by Lauren. And if you've been around the Out and About community for a while, you know who Lauren is. If you're new to the podcast and new to our world, welcome. And Lauren, do you want to introduce yourself? Which seems weird because you used to run the podcast.
It's all good. I know. I'm like changing seats over here. Hey guys, my name is Lauren. I started Out and About. We are in our 12th year, which is bananas. Going on year 13. So I wear a lot of different hats, as most businesses do as they grow. But today I'm really excited to join Tiffany. We're going to be talking about positioning and a few other things. So yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So introduce the topic here. So if you've listened to the last couple episodes, we've been talking about positioning, which we love to talk about, Out and About. We do a lot of that kind of work. So if you haven't heard those, I highly recommend to go take a listen to those 2 episodes first. But today we're going to talk about, and this is why I'm excited that Lauren's here, because you just said you've been doing this for 12 years. I've been with Out and About for about 8 years. So we've had the opportunity to watch a lot of companies and help a lot of companies position themselves and then reposition themselves as they start to scale. And we talk about scaling a lot. So I thought that would be fun to just chat about, just positioning your brand for the sake of scaling and taking things to the next level. So that's what we're going to talk about. It'll be fun in a very nerdy way. But if you're, again, if you're in that marketing seat and you're getting a lot of knocks on the door about how we're going to enter that M&A activity, how we're going to start hiring, how we're just, taking the company to the next level. I think this will be a good conversation. But before we dive into all of that, we always do this, what are we saying yes to? And I feel like we've done a lot of positioning, a lot of like, what are we saying yes to around positioning in the last 2 episodes? And Lauren, since this is your first time to the Out and About podcast,
Yes.
maybe we'll just keep it broad. So marketing in general, in financial services, what are you loving these days?
Oh my goodness, there's a
I know, I
lot of
didn't prepare
things.
you.
Um, Honestly, it's been really fun to see the evolution over the years. Like, if we were to look back over, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, it was all about kind of robo
Mhm.
advisors and what's going on. And then
Yes.
kind of in COVID, it was like all M&A. And that was a huge thing during that phase. And then I feel like today there's kind of this evolution of a lot of firms that are, or I should say solo advisors that are, really hungry. They're getting their practices going. And then there's these kind of like big firms, the aggregators that are doing
Mhm.
interesting things that create their own unique challenges. Our sweet spot is kind of working with those mid-tier firms that are growing kind of in between it. And so I'm having a lot of fun. I think also just seeing this is kind of like general, but how ChatGPT and AI is impacting firms at all different sizes. And I
Mhm.
know we're going to get into positioning, but just kind of the importance of positioning to be able to help pull in that right target. So seeing the new technology roll out, seeing this new trend, I feel like is pretty cool to be a part of this time in history.
I like it. Okay, so mine, and again, we did not prepare for this.
Which is
Sometimes
cool.
we
We're
do. I
bold.
know. You know what I was just thinking about, which is kind of similar, is people just being really, oh gosh, this word. I was gonna say authentic, but it's so overused, but it's true. It's what I meant. I feel like I was on LinkedIn earlier and just seeing people like make videos that are kind of funny and like, a little self-deprecating or just sharing their thoughts. how can I put this? Just that are just really honest with like I'm reading like somebody was like I'm reading this book and it had a religious tie-in and a political tie-in for them personally. The post wasn't about that, but they were just willing to be honest like this is the book I'm reading and this is why I find it interesting. I just feel like those real things like not necessarily that they're promoting anything, but just being honest about who they are, I think is lovely. I feel like people are being a little just letting the guard down a little bit. Like I said, being
Totally.
willing to make funny videos and like be silly in the office and
Yeah.
be honest about like this is what I'm reading and this is what I'm listening to and just being human. I think it's really nice.
Honestly, like when you talk about trends, if you were to think of an overarching theme, it's not even a trend. It's just that this, just financial services in general, it's a human to human business. And I feel like,
Mhm.
if it's some new technology or if it's some new massive M&A thing or whatever it is, like at the core of it's about people. And so the authenticity and how it shines through all of that is really part of the unique differentiator. It's just how do you position that? So, yeah.
Yes, I know. And ironically, I almost mean it in a way of not positioning, which is not really what we're talking about. But when I'm saying this, like no one's like changing their brand because they shared a book that had a religious tie-in or like
Right.
changing the brand because they're making a funny video, but like
Totally.
it's just the people behind the stories, behind the brand, which is really nice. So
Yep.
it's fun. I people think that financial services is boring and it's really not.
It's a
So,
people. It's a people to people business. I mean, I feel like we
that's
tell our
right.
clients that all the time. Like, it's not just about your company and your services and the price point and blah, 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 all the things. It's about you. And that it's the relationships. So, anyways, I could go on for a while.
Oh my gosh. So this reminds me because we've been working together for so long. This never became anything. Do you remember that like many years ago we had this vision of like making a video where like numbers turned into people or
Oh
something
my
like
gosh, I remember. I don't even remember like the whole storyboard.
that? Yes.
Whoa, that was a flashback.
I
Yeah, I
know.
do.
It's
Yeah,
true though, like nothing has changed. That was a really long time ago. And we could never figure out how to make it happen, but
yeah,
but it's true. It's about the people, not about the numbers. So
yeah,
anyway,
totally.
maybe someday, maybe we'll have to like use AI to come up with our,
You
or we
know,
just threw it out to the world and
we'll
someone's
see
gonna,
where it goes. We'll get a
yeah,
video back to us. I know.
yeah. Cool. So let's talk about the topic. So, like you said, we work a lot with those like what'd you say, mid-tier, like
Yeah.
mid size companies. Um, and that they're often, I like to say like they're on the tipping point of growth. Like they've DIY'd long enough, they've like pushed through long enough, and they're ready to like to scale, to take it to the next level, whatever verb you want to use there. But it takes position. Do you want to just discuss why that's the case? Like why are we talking about positioning when it comes to
Yeah. Okay.
level?
So I feel like it's easy to go, okay, so what do we do? Like, give me the playbook.
Mhm.
What's everybody doing that works? And everyone's like,
Yes.
go straight to the tactic. You got to do, 5 social media posts
Gosh,
at 3
yes.
o'clock and at 2 o'clock on Wednesday and 1 o'clock on Friday. I want the formula like that.
Mhm.
So what happens is it's like hyper tactical, and honestly, you can't rip off somebody's exact playbook for yours because it's just different. Like your business, your company, your audience, it's all different. So positioning is so important because it basically helps you to identify like how do you want to show up in the market and what makes you different against your competitors and like who's that kind of authentic brand of your company, and then it will help to kind of it waterfalls there, and it helps us to know like should we be doing social media posts, like is that where our crowd is hanging out at, should we be putting energy into videos, should we be putting energy into wherever it is, and then at what cadence, it all kind of it waterfalls down from there. But if you don't kind of look at the bigger picture of the positioning, and frankly that directly like plugs into your business and where you want to go, then you're kind of honestly it's just the cart before the horse, and it's just going to be a lot of activity but not necessarily like clung together. So that's why positioning is so important. So it's kind of
Yeah.
your glue, it's your umbrella, it's the bigger picture. I
Okay,
know we're
good
laughing because we were
analogies.
in a call earlier and we're like we're using all these like
We just
like the
use the same
same kinds of
analogies.
words, but they're good, right? Like they help us
True.
to see the whole point of it for what we're trying to accomplish with for our, for the tactics. So we can literally, we always talk about, so you could go, well, X social media post went out and I can explain, connect the dot between that social media post and why it connects to the bigger picture of the business. And that's gold. Like it explains the why
Yes.
and effort.
Yes.
So,
That's exactly what we're trying to do. Um, I'm wondering if you can get a little bit nitty gritty here so like I said, this podcast is all about all four. Make it for the person sitting in that marketing seat. And they're nodding. They agree. They can feel it, but they have,
where do we
but
go?
yes.
What
And
do
they
we
have
tell leadership?
the leadership saying like, okay, but like I talked to my friend and he made these Facebook ads and now he's getting all these leads. Where are leads? And like it's fine for you to talk about all this, but now what? Like I just want to grow.
We saw this awesome video. We have to do this.
Yeah, so
Oh,
like
I
what
know.
would you I totally agree with you. I think the person sitting there would be agreeing with you, but like what are they supposed to say? How do they push back to like slow down? We have to do XYZ first.
Okay.
Which is, by
So,
the way, 2 episodes ago, if anyone wants to go there, but
yes.
but I want
Okay.
to hear from you.
Maybe we do some case studies. I feel like that narrates
Yeah, yeah. I want to get into like the real, yeah,
the
that's what I
real
want.
stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
So, there's a firm that comes to mind. We worked with them for probably about 7 years through their growth journey. And they basically came to us like a lot of other folks do. They're like, where do we spend our resources? Right? Like, we don't know where to spend our resources, what's going on. So it starts with the business strategy questions of like, where are we
Yeah.
going? What are we doing? Who's our target? All that stuff, which I'm sure that was in other episodes. So
Nah, but it's important, right?
circle
It's
back.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me just kind of like pull out one of those components of that discovery and where leadership was anchoring, which was on M&A. But it wasn't like they wanted to be acquired. What their objective was is they wanted to have other advisors that were like hungry for growth
Mhm.
come join their firm and ideally bring over assets. But more than the assets, it was about like the right fit and advisors that were really hungry to go after business development.
They were trying to attract breakaway advisors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, and advisors that like weren't ready to retire and hand off their book, although that's kind of a nice transition, but they were
So not breakaway, but like solo advisors that were like, you know what? I want to sit
either
in
or. It was
okay,
either or.
okay.
Yeah. But the important thing is that they were hungry. Like they were
Hmm.
like, we're ready to build it, ready to build out our book of business and ideally younger because a lot of the advisors in this firm they were a little bit older.
Yeah.
And so they were thinking about kind of that next wave. Their target market was also a little bit younger as well than your kind of like traditional like pre-retiree audience. So we went after a really strategic effort around really positioning all of the value that this
Mhm.
firm had to offer to an advisor looking to join the firm. And so that turned into things like a landing page. We're like,
Mhm.
okay, this is our objective. How are we going to position ourselves so that we can look like basically forward as a firm that's really attractive for others to join. And the firm, frankly, they had done all like the hard work, like all the legal
Yes,
fees, the positioning, the buy-in, like all the comp structure, all that sort of thing, which is its own beast. So now
exactly.
marketing can go, okay, how do we position that externally to really show up? So tactically, we looked at like landing pages. We put together this awesome video that told the story. We talked about the marketing benefits, like what advisors get when they're joining the firm and what are kind of the bells and whistles that come with that. The
Mhm.
culture, the
Yes.
um like the opportunity to really help shape the strategy of the firm. There was all these things that then rolled into, like I said, landing page, video, social post, blog content, advisors like boots on ground activity for where they were showing up. Once the prospect was coming in, those closers or sets of closers, they were teed up with that, like those talking points as well as key materials. And then when the close happened, we had like a whole game plan to help that advisor transition, like fold them into all of the marketing activity, help them to see the bigger picture, help them to get all the value add that came with it post that close. So it just basically became this, big picture objective, marketing steps in, positions, the team's still doing the work, boots on ground to be able to socialize, network. Because honestly, a lot of this is about the relationship building. And then
Mhm.
post close, we've got all the things that go with it to say, like, we weren't just talking, like, we've got a whole process in place to really help them successfully transition. So, that's kind of like, how do we want to be positioned? And then how is it actually executed?
Yeah, well, and it sounds like something we've talked about, and this is a great example of it, is like being willing to put all the efforts behind something. So sometimes so what I'm hearing from this is like we're focused on growing the team. And so even blog posts, social posts, like everything's around that. Not everything, but probably most things
Yeah,
around that. We're not as focused on like client generation at this point. I
totally.
mean, we are, but like, sorry, like the blog posts, the social posts are not focused on like client education as much. And I just want to call that out or see if you agree, because I think so often, okay, we have our positioning, we know what we want, you know what I mean? But what about this? And what about that? And what about, we can't forget those folks and our current clients. What are they going to see? You know, like it, yeah, it just gets scattered. So,
It can get really scattered. I think that's one of the challenges within leadership is sometimes it's really hard to be like have that confidence to anchor in to say we want to go after
yes,
this
it takes
direction
courage.
or after this target. And sure, you want to do the other things. Like I gave a very narrow campaign example within there was a lot of other efforts the firm was working on to help bring in and attract prospects and just add value to their current clients. But it's just an example of efforts that all align back to the business objective,
Yeah.
and how they wanted to set themselves apart. So,
Yeah, and where the energy needs to go. I feel like so often it's like we have the plan, but then internally day to day we're like, but we're not writing a blog about XYZ and this and that. We get kind of like,
okay, you can't do it all
yeah,
one time.
yeah. So that story actually reminded me of another client too, and maybe this will um, shed some light on this positioning a little differently. So I feel like I'll get to what I'm going to say. I feel like part of this is like, okay, your positioning. But sometimes your firm and who you are so well that certain things can feel negative. So
Hmm.
I'm thinking of one client, they were struggling to hire
Hmm.
for particular seat in the company, and well, multiple seats actually. And part of that was like they knew, I mean, their brand was locked in. But
Hmm.
when they started to talk about themselves, it was like and you could feel it in the job posts and things like that. There was some like apologizing for who they
Hmm.
were. And so we were able to kind of come in and maybe just that, like I said, the brand was already there and the positioning was already there, but we were able to like reframe it
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
positive light, like, well, those are good things. Like those are reasons people want to come to you,
yeah,
or the right person will want to come to you,
totally.
instead of apologizing for all the folks that it's not going to be a fit for.
Yeah, I remember this. So the situation was basically we have been working with an executive recruiting firm for months and we cannot find talent like for what we're looking for. And they're like, sure, we're picky, but like we
Like
just
nothing's coming in.
nothing's working. It's like not the right culture fit, it's not the right whatever. And you're right, like it was this sort of coming from an apologetic state. And so part of it was, I mean, you look at like recruiting efforts, it's not just like you talked about the job description, but I remember with that account, we also looked at um the outbound messaging that was going to prospective
Yep.
candidates. We looked at how do we like ramp up that vibe of what the culture is like from social
Yes.
content, job fairs, like just the whole energy so that before they're even ready to hire, like we got it going on. Honestly, I can tell you
Hmm.
from our own hiring, we've had candidates that actually we've hired and they're like, we've been following you like after they're hired or what, like, I've been following you for like you guys for like a few years now. And I'm like, how rad is that? Like, we had no
Now you're
idea.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh my gosh. And we get to like bring you into into the fold here. And it's so cool. And I think that's something that it's kind of that like silent side that a lot of people don't talk about, but it's that kind of, oh my gosh, we wrote an article about it a while ago. I don't know if it was like the social creeping or I forget what term we
Oh
used.
yeah.
You know what
We
I'm
can
talking
go
about?
find
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah, we'll find it for this
Yeah,
one.
so, but yeah, it's this idea of like, there's a lot of people that are watching, even if they don't say something, and it's kind of that drip that you can like ramp up. And so in this particular case, it was like, we need to hire, but there was a lot of things that just hadn't gone out that helped to kind of show the energy to be able to pull in that right candidate. stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I remember, and this is a good example for just positioning in general. Even if you're just you need to position for a particular event or opportunity coming, making sure that there's I don't know that it's not really breadcrumbs, that's not the right analogy, but there's like little drips of things. So like making sure that there's social posts going out with the same messaging and or maybe it's on your blog or things or you're talking about things. So like the positioning that you're working on is like I don't know, it's like baked in different places so people
Yep.
can like taste it. I don't know, I'm mixing up analogies, but
No, totally. You can feel
yeah.
it like with every turning point. You're like, oh, that's totally them. Like that just,
Yeah, yeah. So that because people do like they look around, and so that's what we worked on with them too, is making sure they again their brand, visual brand, beautiful, and culture, amazing. But like you couldn't always taste it,
right,
once you got on social or whatever. So just
right.
making sure that,
Or the website, or like an
yeah,
interaction with a person, like it just kind of pours through. So,
yeah, we just worked with a client on that too, where like the brand is amazing, but then you'd like go to other touch points, and you're like, but what happened to the brand?
yeah,
Like it didn't follow. So
yeah,
making
it
sure
has
that
to
it's
follow. It's
all there.
part of kind of everything.
Hmm.
Um, I'm thinking of another client of ours when we started with them, they were maybe 30-ish employees and they grew to close to 200. And still growing. And part of what was really cool to see through that growth phase, it just like really reiterated like what we're talking about is that the brand, sometimes I think people think about like, oh, marketing, it's a social media post, it's a
Hmm.
newsletter, it's a whatever. But it truly is like fits like hand in glove across the entire department,
Hmm.
especially as a company's growing and it becomes a huge asset. So it it literally
Yes.
like plugs into, HR and hiring, of course, marketing, sales teams, like operations, like how everyone's
Operations
feeling those
huge.
internal trainings and
Hmm.
company-wide meetings. Like it literally like pours into everything internally and externally. And so that's really key. And if it's off balance, then it's going to show up somewhere off balance. So
Yeah, and I feel like that's exactly why I want to talk about this today because it's so critical to scale. Like it's fine when again you're like a small company. I don't know. I don't want to throw out numbers, but there's just a few of you. And you all kind of feel it and you've had the brand story, but as you're growing, that brand or that whatever, the whichever word you want to use, maybe brand is like you said, people take pride in it and they're connected to it, you know? Am
yeah,
I is that I don't know if I'm
totally.
it's making sense, but
Yeah.
yeah, like you need to have that in place so that as you're taking it to the next level,
Yeah.
you're bringing people in, whether it's M&A or, other firms or just hiring in general.
Yeah.
They can feel it and they can take pride in it too.
Totally. Okay. Like totally different topic.
Okay.
Well, first, I'm not a sports person. You know that. Like, I kind of try to be, but you can feel sports culture, right? You can
Right.
feel the culture. And then I got to throw in Taylor Swift because I know we were talking about Taylor Swift earlier,
Yep.
but, right? Like, you feel it. Like, you feel the vibe. So,
Yes.
okay, you can do the same thing with any big brand. Like, Starbucks, they've transitioned over the years too. Same thing with Nordstrom's. Like a Trader Joe. Like you can think about these brands and what is like, what is the feeling? What's the impact? What's the
Mhm.
experience? And that consistency target, like it's all it's essential to, it's like woven in the fabric of kind of who a company is as it continues to grow. So I know I kind of threw out bigger examples, but the principles, like the basic principles are still there. So
No, and that's exactly why I was thinking of that client that you were talking about because they started off with a small number of people that could just have that in their I don't want to call out what their brand is, but um they could just have that in their personality, right? And like with enough growth, you could just hire people who also have that vibe.
totally,
Eventually, like the vibe has to attract the people. Like it can't
totally.
just be
Yep.
yeah. Anyway. And then, okay, I have to use this too. So then when we hire, like we have our own brand personality that encapsulates everything. Highly recommend. Everyone just has a really good brand personality. But then we use that as a filter when we're hiring. Like, do they fit that? and then it goes on beyond that. So then when we're encouraging each other internally, we can say like, you are that like this, like you wouldn't be part of our team if you weren't. So we
Yeah.
can, turn that on, not turn it on, but uh, exude that thing.
That
Definitely
energy.
big. That energy. Yes, that's right. Yes. So cool. Well, anything else that we need to, this always flies by. So,
I
but
don't know.
anything
We could talk for a really long time on this topic.
I
So
know, and we had so many other case studies we're going to share, but we'll bring them up in future episodes, I'm sure.
yeah,
So,
so fun.
yeah, so okay, we always end with like one action step. So if there's one thing that listeners can do, they want to take their firm to the next level or their company or everything, what should they do?
One easy
I've
thing would
got it
be
working.
honestly just pick out your next social media post and make sure you can draw the connection
Ooh.
between why you're doing it and making sure it connects back to your business strategy. If you can't do that, just take a step back and ask why. You can only execute on that one thing, like recommendation, if you're clear on the bigger picture. So,
Mhm.
and that's really key, honestly, for any marketing initiative is that like if we've got good input, you got good output, just like anything else. So if you can connect those dots back and forth, that's kind of a good quick like test of okay, something feels aligned here. And it might feel aligned in certain parts and other parts it might not, which is kind of like a good intuition to maybe I don't know, take a look under the hood. So
Litmus test. I like it. That's awesome. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for another episode. If you like this conversation, make sure to head to outandaboutcommunications.com/community. We'll have the links all over the place so you can get on the newsletter list. I can attest that there are some great resources going out in the next couple months in those newsletters. So definitely sign up there. We'll also make sure you don't miss any episodes, but you can also subscribe and do all the technical things to make sure that you don't miss any. And we'll can't remember what we're talking about in the next episode, but it will be awesome, whatever it is. So join us next time. All right, take
there.
care.